Hey, everybody, and welcome to the OHIO podcast. I am Chris the Wildman Wilds. I am joined by Eric Buckeye Boggs, and we just want to take a little time today to talk about what's going on with the NCAA. So, Eric, in an attempt to crack down on NIL violations and control state legislation that is legalizing what is, in essence, pay for play, the NCAA has sent out a memo to rein things in a bit. Now, the NCAA, this memo is more of a threatening letter that is sent to many SEC state schools, specifically Texas A&M is named among them. And what it is doing is just reinforcing what the NCAA sees as its policies regarding NIL. So the letter of intent was to give clarification on NIL practices to its member schools. The two underlying points are member schools must abide by NCAA rules, even if state law is in conflict with those policies. And second, entities and organizations such as school foundations or groups directly linked to the university are strictly prohibited from involvement in NIL, offering donor incentives for giving NIL. So in essence, basically, if state law permits a certain practice, but NCAA rules are contrary to this, it says you must follow the NCAA rules. Additionally, it says basically boosters can't meet up with prospective student athletes, try to entice them to attend a school. NIL deals can't be made to mandate students live in a certain area, mandate that they play at a specific school, and event sponsors are not allowed to pay an NIL collective in order for a specific team to compete in an event. So basically what it's saying is, you're going to do what we say, and friends of the program, even though they've been around for years, they don't exist anymore. So Eric, is this too little, too late?
Oh yeah. This is way too little, too late, Chris. This is the NCAA basically the last gasp before it dies. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to be around someone as they're passing away, but they use, I've seen and I've heard that there's kind of a last gasp that happens and then life leaves their body. That's what we're seeing happening to the NCAA. First off, in that letter, nowhere did they put how they were going to enforce the law.
Correct.
Number two, where's the punishment? They didn't line that out either. Number three, they have no legal leg to stand on against the states. They've
Correct.
already been destroyed in federal court. So if you think this is going to stop the Texas schools or the SEC schools, shoot, even now, I would say even the ACC and probably some of the Big Ten schools. You think that's going to stop them from doing what they're doing?
No.
It's not. And so this is the last gasp by the NCAA before it literally dies. I don't know what the next chapter would be. I've always felt that the College Football Playoff Committee should take over anyways and put a commissioner in place to oversee all of this, just like the NFL does. I do think that's the direction we're heading down the road. How long it takes to get there, I don't know. But what we are watching is the NCAA as far as its grasp of control over college football. We're watching it die right before our eyes, Chris. That is what we're seeing.
Yeah, I agree. What we're seeing right now is the NCAA trying to close a Pandora's box that they themselves opened. You know, the idea of payment to players is not new.
No, it's
The
been talked
NIL has been
about
a
for
long
decades.
time coming.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if nothing else, in 2009, when Ed O'Bannon sued the NCAA over using his likeness in a video game,
Mm-hmm.
they knew this was coming. If not then, the NCAA should have been preparing for it then, but if not, then certainly in 2014, when the ruling came out that said, listen, what you're doing basically violates antitrust statutes. You can't do this. So 5 years before you had to prepare, 5 years after, and you've done nothing. You had a decade to put a plan in place, and you did absolutely nothing. Three different presidents. You go back to Miles Brand, interim president Jim Ish, and then, of course, for the most part, Mark Emmert, who had this all in on their plate. Emmert was there from 2010 till 2023. What was he doing for a decade, Eric? What was he thinking when he came up with no plan for what everybody could see was an inevitable outcome? Now it's up to Charlie Baker, the current administrators of the NCAA, to try to fix a problem that's out of control. So I agree with you, Eric. Yes, it's absolutely too late. The NCAA is, as you mentioned, a toothless organization that at this point is at the mercy of the power elite schools, specifically, as you mentioned, those in the SEC, those in the Big Ten, who are basically just, the NCAA is treading water right now until the power elite schools decide to do away with it, just as you mentioned. The NCAA is nothing more than the United Nations of college football at this point, only with less purpose. I mean, I'm with you 100%. This was out of control, should have been better thought out, but you know what? Now that it's not something the NCAA can fix. And clearly we've seen that the government, I don't believe, is going to step in and try to really correct this, as each state is doing kind of their own thing. And as we all know, never look to the government for the solution, because 99% of the time they're the problem, much like the NCAA was in this case, Eric. So, yeah, I don't see any kind of a positive outcome for this. This is basically going to continue to be the Wild West.
What was the commissioner doing the last 13 years? Well, I'll tell you what he was doing. Same thing
paycheck.
Same thing my neighbor's doing over there with four different babies from four different men, sitting back collecting paychecks, doing nothing.
Yeah.
Same thing. They could have probably taken money from television rights and paid these athletes a larger stipend per university.
Yes.
And none of this would have ever come up the way it did, because those student athletes would have been appreciative of that at the time. And that would have established more of a, we're going to reward you for your efforts. Unfortunately, it's just too little too late. And they're trying to show the long arm of the law, and it's coming out like a T-Rex. I mean, there's we're the NCAA. Like, come on, man. It's laughable. It's laughable.
It is. And I'll tell you, I don't get necessarily what they're even trying to do with it at this point. I think that all we are doing, and the more they push, it's going to lead to two things that I think are inevitable anyhow. That's unionization and collective bargaining, which I think is going to be coming down the table or down the pipe for the college athletes as well.
Well, if you're gonna do that, what are you gonna negotiate against? There's nothing to negotiate against, right?
Well, so that's where you're going to get the unionization coming in first. They're going to establish a guideline. They're going to establish, I think, much like you see in the NFL, maybe there's going to be hardline salary caps in place. Salary caps on certain athletes.
That would have to come down from the schools. The schools are going to have to take the bull by the horns here, because if the athletes want to unionize, who are they going to unionize against? The NCAA. The NCAA is not going to negotiate. No. It's going to have to be with the schools. So the schools are going to have to come together, and that's where they are going to have to agree on a set of guidelines. And you and I both know that the way these conferences are set up, they're not going to want to agree with each other. So this is going to be a train wreck in the next few years. And quite frankly, Chris, I'm here for it, because I just want to see the NCAA go away at this point. They've made a mess of this. And now you and I, we're both traditionalists. If I could wind the clock back to the 80s when it comes to how we would approach college athletics, I would. But like you said, the Pandora's box is open. And because it's open, you're not putting the cat back in the bag. It's
No.
not going to happen. So we might as well get to the end point as quickly as we can so that we can move forward with something that's positive for everybody involved, which are the student athletes and us, the fans of these universities. Those are the two entities that um, need to be given what we want, right? What we need. The student
Yeah.
athletes and us, the fans. Secondary to that is the universities in the television markets. Okay.
Yeah.
Not and the last bit of this is any kind of governing organization. Okay. But we understand that they're going to have something in place in order to bring conferences together to agree on a set of standards and bylaws to be followed strictly. And until that happens, it's the wild, wild west. And whoever's bringing the quickest hand and the biggest guns to these fights, those are the schools that are going to win. Georgia, Alabama, Texas, probably Ohio State, USC, Michigan. Am I missing anybody? Those seem to be the ones who are willing to spend the money.
What one that maybe slides in there eventually would be maybe in Oklahoma because oil
O-
money. Oil
Oregon,
money. Yep, Oregon.
Oregon with Nike
Nike
money.
money.
Yeah. So these are the ones who are they're gonna win the gunfights right
Yeah.
now. And you're seeing that kind of in recruiting too. Florida, by the way, as well. Maybe Tennessee can sneak in there. They seem to be spending a lot too. So that's my 2 cents, Chris.
Yeah. I agree with you 100% there, Eric. Please let us know what you think in the comments. And don't forget, this Sunday, Eric, we're going to try something new. We're going to do our first attempt at a call in show. Now, we tried this before on audio, didn't go so well, but you know what? We got a new format. We're very excited. This is something we're looking at doing all fall, is going to be a call in show. So I'm very excited about that. So join us this week on Sunday evening, 8 o'clock Eastern, for our first call in show. And as always, please go like and subscribe if you have not done that to our YouTube page, because the faster we get to 500, Eric, the quicker you give away another $50.
That's right.
So we're excited about that.